Hi everyone, I'm Paige Armstrong and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Queenslanders with Disability Networker. Now, this is an important week in many ways, both because it's Disability Action Week, a very important week for the Queensland Government, and because we're leading up to this Saturday, the 3rd of December, which is International Day of People with Disability. Both the week and the day recognise the contributions, the achievements that people with disabilities make and continue to make to our lives, our workplaces, our communities, and the Queensland's economy. Can I say that QDN was especially pleased that today, Minister Crawford, the State Minister for Disability Services, launched Queensland's Disability Plan 2022 to 27, titled Together a Better Queensland. Now, this is a very important plan that's been brought together by the state government to look at the ways in which all of our government departments and agencies can make sure that people with disability in Queensland are better included and better serviced by many of our government departments and agencies and the programs and services that they either deliver or fund organisations to deliver. So the State Disability Plan covers the over 900,000 Queenslanders with disability in this state. It aligns with the National Disability Strategy, and it highlights some key areas that most people tuning into this broadcast would have as key interest areas themselves. And those things are employment, inclusive homes, safety, community support, education, health and community attitudes. So the Queensland Plan, it builds on the Australian Disability Strategy, and it outlines how the Queensland Government and Queensland departments and agencies intend to deliver on those priorities within Queensland. As Minister Crawford said when he launched the plan, we want everyone to have the opportunity to live in supportive, inclusive communities, and the plan identifies increasing appropriately designed accessible housing and public infrastructure as priorities, as well as shaping positive community attitudes towards people with disability. That each of the government departments will be developing, publishing and delivering action plans that align with and implement Queensland's Disability Plan for 2022 and 27. So this has been a very important piece of work. It's a piece of work that has been co-designed with people with disability. QDN and many of our members were involved in assisting in the co-design of this plan, and especially in identifying those key priority areas that Queenslanders with disability around the state felt needed some more urgent attention across the Queensland Government. One other event I also want to mention is something that's being held by the Victorian Office of the Public Advocate. And it's an online discussion around healthcare. And that panel discussion will include the perspectives of people with disability as part of an online Q&A, a question and answer session that's facilitated by people with lived experience of disability, as well as people speaking from the perspective of lived disability. There'll be more information on our website around this event, but we know how much interest many of our members have in health, just as they have in employment. Now, there's just a couple of other policy updates that I'd like to finish with. One important update is to give people more information following on from the recent taxi forum that we held earlier this year. We recently had the opportunity to have a meeting with Minister Bailey, the Minister for Transport, and the Minister has agreed to host a roundtable with private taxi companies, as well as the broader industry, the taxi industry stakeholder group, because there is a taxi council as well as privately owned companies, and people with disability, representatives from QDN and our network, so that we can work together with the taxi industry to discuss ways in which they can look at improving the whole process of both the booking and the availability and delivery and the ability of their drivers to be as user-friendly as possible with people with disability around this state. Very importantly, I want to congratulate the 2022 emerging leaders. Over the past while, I think there's been up to about 33 people with a diverse range of disabilities. We will be having another emerging leaders group in 2023 to think about signing up for that program in 2023. Now, I'd like to finish up by saying that this is the last week of my being the Chief Executive Officer of Queenslanders with Disability Network. After 9 years, I think it's time for me to take more of a back seat, because I think that it's a good opportunity to have someone else step into that role, and I would like to have a little more time to do a few other things and spend a bit more time with family. And I've got some other projects that I'd like to think about. What I'd like to say to our members is it's been one hell of a ride over the last number of years. And by that I mean it has been a privilege to be at the head of an organisation where I have seen the great skills, the great compassion, and the great leadership of people with disability around the state, QDN members, the great courage and leadership shown by our board during a period of what they call transformational change. During a time when we've had the National Disability Insurance Scheme roll out in the state, we've had a Royal Commission looking into the abuse and neglect of people with disability across Australia. We've had floods, we've had bushfires, we've had state and federal elections over those last 9 years. It has been a period of ongoing change. People with disability both in Queensland and nationally have led a fight to get a review of the National Disability Insurance Scheme to ensure that we get the best possible support outcomes for Queenslanders and for Australians who are eligible for that scheme. And people with disability in Queensland have been very vocal about the need for our government departments and agencies to step up and make sure that services and support are more accessible to all Queenslanders, including people with a range of diverse disabilities. So it has been a privilege to head up this organisation at this most incredible time. Can I finish up by, in addition to thanking our board, in addition to thanking our members, I also have to thank the many staff that have been part of the journey along the way of the great QDN experience. Over the last 9 years, I've also been privileged to work with a range of people, staff with and without disability, whether they've been called a peer leader or a project officer, but people who have worked together to ensure that the many projects that we have carried out, whether it's been around NDIS access, digital inclusion, whether it's been around electricity and power affordability, you name it, that people have worked together to make sure that our work has always been of the highest quality and with a clear outcome. If it doesn't improve the lives of people, then why is QDN doing it? And if it doesn't align with our mission and values, where the work is done in a way, as we say, nothing about us without us. As I step back, I am so pleased that our board in its wisdom has appointed Michelle Moss as the next Chief Executive Officer of Queenslanders with Disability Network. Michelle has worked with this organisation and worked with our peer leaders, our network, our staff and our board for quite a period of time, knows the organisation and sector well, and is committed to people with disability. Michelle has passion and a heart, and she will ensure that this organisation continues to do what it does best, to stand and be a strong voice and advocate for people with disability across the state. Have a great Christmas and New Year, and I'll look forward to catching up with our peer leaders and networks in another capacity, because I may be retiring as CEO, folks, but I'm still hanging around the network.